We're going to talk about how you find the mode of a data set. Now, mode is simply the number or numbers that shows up the most amount of times in a list of numbers. Now, looking at number one, you're going to notice that all of our numbers are jumbled up. And I always recommend to students to order your numbers from least to greatest, because when you talk about topics like median and interquartile range and mean absolute deviation, order is very important. So I always tell them to get into the habit now of ordering your numbers from least to greatest. So for each problem that I do, I'm going to make sure to order them from least to greatest. So let's go ahead and jump into number one. Let's order everything from smallest to largest here. So we have 4, making sure that I cross out everything as I utilize it. So we have another 4. Finally, another 4. Then we have 5, 10, 12, and finally we have 16. Now, mode is the number or numbers that shows up the most amount of times. Now, looking at my list, a dead giveaway right off the bat is 4 has to be my mode. Every other number shows up 1 time, 4 shows up 3 times. So for my mode, my final answer is just the number 4. Now, if we take a look at number 2, again, we're going to order our numbers from least to greatest here. So we have 6, 8, we have 11, 13, 14, and 20. And this time around, when you look at your list of numbers, you're going to notice that every single number appears 1 time. There's no number that shows up more than once. So if you come across this scenario, your answer is no mode. So we're going to have no mode. There's no number that shows up more than once. So our final answer is no mode. And a common mistake that I see with students is they recognize that this is no mode, but they end up putting their final answer as 0. Don't do that, because you're telling me the mode is 0 when in reality there's no mode at all. So just make sure to write out no mode if you come across this type of problem on a test or assignment or anything, right? Now, the last one we have is number 3. Again, let's order them from least to greatest here. So we have 9, again, crossing them out so I don't miss any. Then we have 10, 11, looks like we have another 11, 14, 17, and finally another 17. Now, looking at our list, it looks like 11 shows up 2 times, and 17 also shows up 2 times, whereas all the other numbers show up once. Now, here's another scenario that 11 shows up twice, 17 shows up twice. You're going to end up having 2 modes in this particular answer. So your mode is 11 and 17. So there is our modes for number 3. Now, before you go, I want you to try numbers 4, 5, and 6 on your own. I encourage you to pause the video here, try these problems out and see if you can find the mode for each one of them. And then when you think you have it, come back and play the video and see how you did. So I'm assuming at this point you have paused the video, you've tried finding the mode for 4, 5, and 6, and now let's go ahead and go over it. So again, we're going to order them from least to greatest. So let's start with number 4 here. So we have 5, again, crossing them out. Then we have 9, 10, 14, 15, and finally we have 22. Looking at my list, every number shows up exactly 1 time. There's no numbers that show up more than once. This is a scenario where you are going to have no mode as your final answer. So hopefully you got that for the first one. And now let's move on to the next one. So looks like our smallest value is 7, and we have that show up here a couple times. Looks like we have 3 7s here. Then we have a 10, followed by, looks like a 16. Then we have 19, 19 again, and finally we have 23. And looking at our list here, it looks like 7 shows up 3 times, and there's no other number that shows up any more times than 7 does. So 7 is going to be our mode for number 5. So hopefully you are 2 for 2, and let's go ahead and go over the last one. Let's order them from least to greatest. We have 10, another 10, then we have another 10, then it looks like we have a 16, and another 16, then we have a 17, and it looks like we're ending our list here with 3 18s. Okay, now looking at our numbers here, it looks like we have 10 that shows up 3 times, and we also have 18 that shows up 3 times. Since they show up the same amount of times, they both show up 3 times, this is one of those scenarios where we're going to have 2 modes. So our mode is 10 and 18 for our last one. And hopefully after watching this video, you can find the mode or the number or numbers that shows up the most amount of times in a data set. I appreciate you taking time to watch, and I'll see you in the next one.